Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough. I'm lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough. I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Morning Show, the top morning show in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 in Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines, and most importantly, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak to transportation professionals on this show, as well as my twice-a-week long-form podcast, because I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. It's one of the many, many reasons why I probably fly that American flag behind me every single day. A, we're the greatest nation on earth, but B, I'm living my American dream, and I want to help each and every one of you live yours as well. It is Thursday. Let's go. Bill McIntyre, good morning, everyone. Robert Cowton, good morning, Chris. Consistency is the name of the game, winning in this massive logistics industry. Micah Campo, good morning to you as well. Robert, I couldn't agree with that more, man. It's consistency and it's continuing to push. And yeah, man, there's a lot of opportunity that's out there. A lot of opportunity. Tracy St. Clair, good morning to you. She's watching over on YouTube as well. It is Thursday, and I forgot, since I had guests on Tuesday and Wednesday, I didn't have an opportunity to do the fuel report. Fuel actually went up again nationwide out there, you guys. It is at $3.86 a gallon, so it went up about 4 cents a gallon nationwide. I get that information from the EIA, EIA.gov. It's just a really good report to follow every single week to kind of see where things are trending and how things are going, right? Because if you're out there and you're dealing with RFP customers or large customers that have a fuel schedule and everything else, this is a great way to stay on top of where it is trending and if rates are going to be affected and everything like that, if they're a line haul plus fuel shipper, you guys. So again, EIA.gov. Sherelle Roberts, great morning to you. She's watching over on LinkedIn. Thanks for tuning in. Corey Buchan, happy Thirsty Thursday over on YouTube. Catherine Whitehouse, good morning. What is going on, Catherine? Sunny Sharma, good morning. Orange Shirt Gang in the house. Stephen Tittle, good morning. Let's rock it today. There's a lot going on, right? It's such an odd buildup off of the holidays. And yes, Sunny is very accurate in this. Pay attention to the path ahead and keep your foot on the gas pedal. It's been an interesting buildup back into the year, right? Like with because like from my perspective, it was the first week in January. It was a holiday week. And there wasn't a lot going on, at least from my book of business perspective. And then last week, it was slow freight wise. And, I think that what is going on right now is, it's normal, right? Because at least in my experience in the industry, the first couple of years or the first couple of weeks of January are very hit or miss when it comes to volume perspective and everything else, because it's just always been a typically slower time of the year. And then you couple in a massive weather event that affected the overwhelming majority of the country, which happened late last week and then into early this week. And it's really kind of thrown a wrench into things. And it is one of those situations where, at the end of the day, this is very normal in how things can go. And especially when it comes to a weather event, right? Like, again, like I always say, at the end of the day, no truckload is worth a human life, no matter what. Does not matter under any circumstances. But again, it's just being aware of how to handle a lot of these changes when it comes to rates. I use green screens, obviously. Oh, there they are up there in that side of the corner. I use green screens in my brokerage because they have the most accurate pricing that's out there for same day, like real-time data and everything. And I literally every single shipment that I move, is one through green screens. Like, all the shipments that I've moved this week, the one that I had delivered this morning, the one that got delivered this afternoon, the one that I got delivering tomorrow, all of them were one off of green screens. But a lot of it is staying on top of it when it comes down to a lot of the weather events that go on out there. Like, I have some lanes that I move fairly consistently that essentially were up, I want to say like $1,000 overnight on this. And how do you stay ahead of it, right? And most importantly, though, how do you work with your customers about this? I personally think that bringing all of this information, just being brutally transparent, is the only way to operate, right? There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it, because when there's an event out there that happens that is an act of God, like a weather event, rates are going to change, capacity is going to tighten up, hours of operations are going to be different, people are going to be delayed. There's a lot of stuff and it kind of gets thrown into a haywire, but staying on top of that stuff and staying in constant communication and bringing this information to your customers, right? Because there's a lot of and we're going to read one of these articles about the spot market and everything else kind of coming back to light. But everyone was pretty much predicting that in 2024 that the market was going to shift, and you just never know what might expedite that shift from happening to where people are just going to sit back and capacity is going to tighten up and rates are going to start to rise. I'm not saying that this weather event is going to do that by any stretch of the imagination, but what if it does, right? What if it is exponentially more expensive to ship freight moving forward for the rest of the year? How are you going to adapt with that with your customer? Are you going to hold out? Are you going to bring it to their attention about, hey, this is what you're seeing out there? Are you going to be non-committal on the freight? Again, open and honest, transparent conversations are always going to be the best plan of attack for all of this stuff, because market shifts happen, rates change, capacity tightens up, and especially in what we're going through right now, this could very well continue. And how are you going to handle it? Are you just going to sit back and throw your hands up in the air and then say, and now start? Because I already said multiple times last year, just wait, you're going to start seeing all these social media posts from all the brokers saying, oh, these drivers need to respect relationships and everything else, while they're not doing it on their own end. But this very well could, be the event that changes things. And how are you going to handle it? Are you going to be proactive in your approach? Are you going to bring this information to your customer? Are you going to try and work through these storms, pun intended, out there and be a real partner? Because that's, at the end of the day, all you can do, right? Control what you can control. You have to control your communication first and foremost. That's it. That, as a broker, because again, this is where all of my experience lies in the industry. That's all I can really do. At the end of the day, I can control my communication. I can get ahead of it, call all these facilities, see if anybody's affected by weather and whatever else under the sun. There's just a lot of different things that you can do in it. So stay ahead of it right now. This might be that opportunity that the doors are starting to get opened at one of your prospects that you've been reaching out to for the last 6 months or 12 months or 18 months, because this year, I personally think this year is going to be the greatest year for market share earning than we might ever see ever again. And you got to keep your follow-ups going out, even if they're not responding, right? I got a laundry list of prospects who haven't responded to me. They haven't blocked me yet either, though. So that's a good sign, in my opinion. And we just got to stay on top of it and really navigate through any of this stuff out there. And then let me see here. So yeah, that's Sydney Thiessen. Good morning. And John Paradise says, good morning, gang. Has been some time since I last joined. Good to be back. Good to have you back there. Flo, good morning. Stephen Elliott says, is it me or is there some unease out there? There's a lot of unease out there if you're on social media and only listen to a lot of people complaining. But yeah, Steve, I see it all over the place, man. Robert Cowton says, thought on the new 1099 proposed legislation. In theory, broker agents are at risk because if our head brokerage closed today, you and I could not book a new load as we don't have MC numbers as a broker. The new, are you talking about the independent contractor rule? Okay, here's a follow-up. The theory of true independent contractors, you're able to continue your business. Same issue with lease operators and owner operators. So I actually had Matt Leffler on my show last week, the Armchair Attorney. We actually broke this down in depth about what all of this means. So it's not going to affect freight agents. Just to kind of summarize it quick, but if you want to hear a full breakdown on it, he gives all of that from an attorney's perspective. So let me see here. Grant Weber, thoughts on brokers sharing carrier relationships. Grant, are you talking internal or external? Both I think are perfectly fine, right? Like I want all of my buddies and all of my friends in the industry to work with a carrier if they're a very, very good carrier and they work for their book of business and everything like that. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I would 100%, man. It's not like I want to help as many people as possible. And if getting them out there where they can find freight that might work better for them, then so be it. I'm all about that stuff, man. All right, you guys, let's get into some articles here. Tomorrow is Q&A day. I did want to throw that out there. Tomorrow is Q&A day. So if you have any sales or operations related questions for the transportation industry, drop them in the chat or DM them over to me. I'll answer them live on tomorrow's show. But if you just want to save them and show up tomorrow, drop them in the chat. I'll answer them live on the show. Let me see here. First article we are going to break down is from Fleet Owner. And as always, you guys, the links to all the articles that we will be breaking down will be uploaded onto the Freight Coach YouTube channel, as well as the Coffee with the Freight Coach audio only replay, which is up on iTunes and Spotify almost immediately after the show. Jesus, dude, I don't know what the hell is going on in the state of California. I can't honestly answer that, man. I don't know for certain. So I don't want to answer that on the show, man, but I can look into it. Let me see. All right. First article is while low spot rates reveal a silver lining, truck build cuts appear imminent, ahead of the hustle and bustle of gifting and gathering in week 51 of 2023, spot rates climbed to their highest that was out there. Total spot rates hovered slightly above $225 per mile, but did even better in the final week of the year. Week 52, we saw a surge fueled most by one of the largest increase in refrigerated spot rates ever. The FTR said on its website. And although the year ended on a high note, as expected, spot rates declined in the first week following the seasonal surge. FTR and truck stop data revealed a spot rate decline of 7.4 cents. But surprisingly, the rate decrease was the smallest for the first of the year since 2018. Dry van spot rates declined barely more than a penny, and flatbed spot rates rose slightly in the first week of the year when they typically see a rate decline in week one. Load volume also saw a sharp increase out there. Although total load volume was down 28% compared to week one of 2023, total load activity in the first week of 2024 rose 51%. Truck postings increased by 7%. That was out there. Spot rates, with the lowest decrease in spot rates since the first week of 2018, which FTR pointed out was soon after the ELD mandate took effect. Rates were still nearly 11% below the same week a year ago. Dry van spot rates saw a small decline of just over 1 cent out there, with rates more than 10% below the same week last year and roughly 9% below the 5-year average. However, dry van loads jumped 42% after falling nearly 24% in the previous holiday week. Load volume was 38% below the first week of 2023 and roughly 40% lower than the 5-year average. Refrigerated spot rates that were out there, okay, hold on. With the rates that surged during the last week of 2023, there was a 40-cent increase, then fell by 10 cents in the first week of 2024. Refrigerated spot rates were about 11% lower compared to this time last year and 6% lower than the 5-year average. Flatbed spot rates saw a 1 cent increase week over week that was out there, and this was nearly 11% below week one of 2023 and about 3% below the 5-year average. And then load volume in this segment picked up a whopping 105% after a 39% decrease in a prior week. And then even with the increase, however, the volume was still about 16% below last year's number and about 43% below the 5-year average. Yeah, it's, at the end of the day, you guys, utilizing multiple data sources, and Eric Johnson, who's with the JOC, who is with the JOC, he was on my show the other day, and he said it best, right? utilize multiple data sets out there to see where a lot of this stuff is trending, because in a couple of weeks, because there's a lot of rate shakeups that are going on out there right now due to the storms that went through and the tightening of capacity. So when you're out there looking, and I'm bringing this up because this is from like a long-term pricing perspective, or how you're going to go out and attack these bids here, you have to remove these anomalies from your bidding process, right? Because there is going to be a massive spike. Like some of the lanes that we have been moving fairly consistently, like I said, are up $1,000 a load out there in the spot market right now. And that is going to throw a massive wrench into data. So you're going to see a lot of those headlines probably next week, starting to say that rates are increasing, capacity's tightening up, tender rejections, everything else. But there's a reason for that, right? Like that's going to tell a story. I would hope that all of the people who are putting those articles out there will point to this weather event that caused a lot of this to happen. But pay attention to that, right? Because again, this could very well be the event that shifts everything. I don't think it's going to be, but you just never know, right? So as you're paying attention to this and you're hearing a lot of this, start tracking some of this stuff, right? Because you might not have the budget to track all of this data. I mean, at the end of the day, if you have a TMS, for example, all of that stuff should be in there. If you don't have a TMS, hit up my friends over at TIE Software. All right. They have the leading TMS out there on the market. If you guys want to get in touch with them, let me know. I'll put you in direct contact with my friends over there. But you need to utilize data to make your best decisions. And I truly think that too many people shoot from the hip on a lot of this stuff, because if you're going to go out there and bid on freight based on this week's rates and you think that this is going to sustain, which again, you never know, but my gut tells me that it's not going to sustain here in, I truly don't think that this is going to cause the market shift that everybody is really predicting this year. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's going to happen with this. But you cannot bid long-term based on these rates, because if you pull up a lot of this data that's out there, and if you pull up some of the data that's going to be coming out, you're going to price yourself out of a lot of freight. Okay. So just bear in mind that as we're kind of going through these next couple of weeks, because this could hurt a lot of individuals out there from a pricing perspective from their customers if they use a week like this. And then they think that they're going to go out and continue to bid those elevated rates next week and the following week, or whatever that looks like, based on what they moved it for this week. So again, you guys track your data, tell that story, find that story. Again, that's why I love green screens. Like I literally use them inside of my business because they give me the most accurate pricing to stay on top of this, to help me win more business. And it eliminates a lot of these anomalies that we find ourselves in. So good information in this one, you guys, talking about where spot rates are and where freight volumes are as a whole and everything. And this is very valuable for you to go out and make the best decisions for your company. So that article is from thefleetowner.com. While low spot rates reveal a silver lining, truck build cuts appear imminent out there. Justin Berger, good morning over on YouTube. Matt Fink, my man, good to see you, man. Eric Johnson is as good as it gets. I love having him on here. I wish I could have him on here more often, but he's got a job, man. It's kind of tough. He says, you and Eric, iron sharpens iron. I love it. Thanks, man. I appreciate that, Matt. Next article. This one came out yesterday. Somebody sent it over to me, and I thought that it was pretty important to bring it up on there. And it was from FreightWaves, and it was TIA warns Congress of rampant fraud in trucking. And it goes, rampant fraud in trucking has become an $800 million problem, and the FMCSA is not addressing the problem, according to the lobby representing 3PLs and brokerage firms. There's a surge of malicious actors engaging in illegal activity, registering with the FMCSA as carriers, and perpetuating fraud, theft, and holding freight hostage in situations without any legal consequences, said Jeff Tucker. He is testifying on behalf of the TIA at a hearing before the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee on Wednesday. While this is obviously an economic problem hurting consumers and businesses alike, it also raises safety and security concerns. Unfortunately, FMCSA is failing to enforce the law or investigate tens of thousands of fraud claims against it. Asked during the hearing the type of fraud that he sees being committed. Tucker, who is the CEO of Tucker Company Worldwide, said the problem is criminals masquerading as brokers as well as trucking companies, and it shouldn't be seen as either carrier fraud or broker fraud. These are just criminals. Couldn't agree with you more there, Jeff Tucker. He pointed out to similar cases of fraud involving dispatch services that are often based in another country, but are not required by the FMCSA to obtain a license. And then the FMCSA must stop dabbling in non-safety commercial considerations like what dollar amount a performance bond should be, or what commercial terms are included inside a private contract between two parties. There are effective measures to address and enforce the solutions for this issue. The continued dysfunctionality of the supply chain and its adverse impact on the broader economy will persist. Obviously, fraud is a big deal, right? It's always going to be a problem, though, and it's getting out of hand. It's been out of hand here, but it is definitely not going away. And I wholeheartedly agree that the FMCSA is doing literally nothing about this. And again, this is my opinion on this. The FMCSA is not incentivized to stop this at all. And what do I mean by that? Where's their revenue come from? Signing up for an MC number, right? Paying that fee and then the annual fee and everything else. So, if we're going on average, because the last time I checked the data that was out there, I think there's like 8 to 10,000 new MCs granted in a month. So even if we're on the low end at that $8,000 mark, that's $2.4 million in revenue. All right. That's almost $30 million a year that's out there. And why would they stop that? Right? $30 million. They don't care. Here's and again, this is my opinion. The FMCSA hears about $800 million in fraud, and they're probably like, well, that's why you guys have insurance, right? Like, that's why you business owners have insurance, is to pay for all that stuff. I don't think there's anything being done on the federal level because two things, and they're both bad. One, they don't care, which I think is the main one. And two, they don't know how to stop it. They're not going to do anything about it. There's a lot of stuff that could be stopped, in my opinion. There's a lot of stuff that they could do, but they're not doing it for a reason. And I think it's that $30 million in revenue price tag that they get by just granting authorities and then not following up with all of that information. But the good thing is there's a lot of private companies that are out there that are fighting this. And, there's a lot of companies that are trying to make this right to help protect businesses out there. I'm involved in one called Broker Carrier. All right. We have a lot of stuff that fights all of this and tells all of these stories for you. But there are private companies out there that are fighting it. And that's where it's going to come from, right? So it's like, as much as I think that it's a giant miss by the FMCSA, mainly because they don't care, it's also an opportunity for people to create businesses that people can utilize to fight a lot of this. And frankly, at the end of the day, the people who are really getting hosed are the carriers that are actually hauling this freight that are not going to get paid. All right. Those are the real victims of fraud and double brokering and everything else. And that is not talked about at all, because it's like by the time they are not paid by the double broker and everything else, that double broker already got paid from the broker and they have since ceased operations, and they're the ones who are getting hosed. So I would like to see some more protections come up from that perspective, where they can prove that they hauled the load and did not get paid for said shipment. So they're protected, because I think that they're the biggest victims in all of this. And then also they're talking about a driver shortage. And then Tucker said there is no driver shortage, nor have there ever been one. This is a false narrative that may lead to unintended consolidation in the industry, to weakening Americans' supply chain. And then U.S. Representative Mike Bost from, Republican from Illinois, a former trucking company owner, challenged Tucker. If you're out here dealing with it every day, there is a driver shortage, Bost said, adding that the increased legalization of marijuana among individual states is exacerbating the problem. You may have a lot of people who may have maybe good drivers, but they prefer to smoke dope on the weekend and they can't get clean by Monday. It's not like having a beer on Sunday during a football game. I don't know where that came from, But I'm with Jeff Tucker on this. I don't think there's a driver shortage at all. But at the end of the day, this is something that people need to continue to watch when it comes down to the fraud and everything else out there. FreightWaves put that article out, and TIA warns Congress of rampant fraud in trucking. April Maroney, what is up? Sudeep, what is up, my man? Good morning. Mark Henley says, good day. This is an article that I pulled up here, and this is mainly just a guilty pleasure, because I'm going to buy this book. And it is from FreightWaves, and it's 3 things the logistics industry can learn from Brad Jacobs's new book. I am a massive fan of Brad Jacobs. All right. I was a part of XPO during the early days. I wasn't on like a leadership team or anything like that, but I was a young employee in the industry when Brad and XPO bought the company I was working for. To be exposed to that and then see what he has built as a serial entrepreneur. I mean, you don't mistakenly build as many billion-dollar companies. You don't do it by accident. And he's launched his new book on Monday, enticingly titled How to Make a Few $1 Billion. In this book, Jacobs describes the many good things and sometimes painful lessons he has learned through his tenure of building billion-dollar companies out of fragmented markets. And Jacobs provides diverse insights, encompassing advice on transforming one's mindset, as well as highlighting the dynamic interplay between technology and human development. And he questions the traditional ideas of success and presents strategies for achieving substantial goals. With his past decade of experience focused on building a highly competitive, lucrative family of logistics companies, Jacobs provides 3 authentic, valuable lessons for all transportation and logistics professionals. Plan to invest in technology, he points out. He expands on a conversation with his mentor, Ludwig Julesen, who past president of Philip Brothers, in which Ludwig Jesselin explains that business success often hinges on accurately identifying and capitalizing on major trends. He points out and indexes at the end of the book a 2 million-year-old mega trend that has accelerated its influence, and that is technology. If you want to make a lot of money in in any industry, plan to invest heavily in technology, he says. And then humans are waning and computers are waxing. That's the single biggest trend I see. Any business that ignores this trend is likely to get smacked in the face, he says. The next one, and then it goes on to say, teamwork makes the dream work. And throughout the book's 200 pages, not including almost 40 more pages of educational tools, Jacob spends the majority of his time acknowledging the human aspect of running a business. And then launching 2 spinoffs from XPO, he says, required enormous grit from the team and an astounding brain trust of collective wisdom. He used his leadership from XPO, GXO, and RXO to showcase how all 3 businesses are running successfully. And then on one hand, I want go-getters with big egos on my team, self-confident winners who are out there to conquer the market and make a bundle, he said. At the same time, they need to genuinely respect others. Even a hint of arrogance can be a red flag. And then once you have built your team, how are you keeping those teams together? And, he says that this has been a strategic decision I made as a CIA. I'm jumping around here a little bit because I know we're coming up on time. He says this has been a strategic decision I made as a CEO to pay like the big corporation and break out of the penny wise and pound foolish mentality that has kept the transportation industry at the lower end of the compensation scale. This has allowed XPO to compete at the highest levels. I am definitely going to order this book. It looks like Sonny Sharma said he pre-ordered the book and can't wait to read it. I'm going to pre-order this book as well because I am a massive fan of what Brad Jacobs has built, right? And success leaves clues, you guys, no matter what. And Shaylyn Dixon, good morning from the ATL. What is up, Shay? It's good to see you in here. And she says, listen to Brad Jacobs is a legend, humble, compassionate, and how he speaks about personal accountability is so on point. Great to see you, Shay. I agree with what she's talking about there. I truly feel like success leaves clues, most importantly, you guys, and you need to pay attention to what people who have actually built things say, right? Like, and this is kind of involved in the internet entrepreneur bullshit that I had talked about last Friday. And I actually got something I'm going to bring up on tomorrow's show that I had somebody reach out to me for about this. But again, you guys, Brad's built real shit, right? Like multi-billion-dollar corporations multiple times. You need to listen to what he says because he's got a great story. And there are a lot of people out there who have built multiple things like this, and they leave a playbook out there for you to follow. It's just following what they say because it takes a long time, right? Like Brad Jacobs and a lot of these other founders didn't build multi-billion-dollar corporations overnight. They didn't build them in 5 years or 10 years. Some of this stuff is over 20, 30-year periods and everything. And they talk about what they went through and what the best part about what a lot of this is they show you like, hey, the mistakes I made in 20 years, if you avoid a lot of them, you can do what I did in 20 years. You can get it done in like 8 or 10 years or even sooner, right? So it's paying attention to a lot of that stuff. But that is going to be it for today, you guys. That article is over on Freight Waves. I'm not affiliated with Brad's book sales or anything like that, but I'm going to be buying that book as soon as I'm done with this show. And I would advise all of you listening to this to buy Brad Jacobs' new book that he is releasing out there. But that'll be it for today. Tomorrow, Q&A show. You got any sales or operations related questions, drop them in the chat. I will put them and answer them live on the show tomorrow. And as always, if you guys got value in what you heard today, subscribe to the show, you guys. Share it out there to your network. This is how we grow. And most importantly, this is how we help more people, is because if you saw value, your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.